Welcome to the IDP Hunter Podcast on the Fantasy Six Pack Network. I'm joined tonight by Johnny FreakIn Fantasy, Johnny FreakIn F1 on Twitter. He's extraordinary. Not only is he a middle school soccer coach, he also runs 2 podcasts a week. The IDP Vets podcast over on the IDP Plus, and he also does the IDP Trend. It's a weekly podcast. Correct, Johnny?
That's correct. Both of you.
Mm-hmm. And then you guys know me. I'm IDP Hunter. I'm over at the Fantasy Six Pack and over at the RPO Network. I do these podcasts. I also write the Every Down Linebacker article over at the RPO Network. And I also write the waivers article over here at the Fantasy Six Pack. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of like mix all of our thoughts together this week, show you some of our content, show you where to go to get some of that information. You know what I always forget to do? I usually forget to show people. I'm also an ECR ranker over on Fantasy Pros. Currently this year, last year I was a number 4 IDP ranker. This year I am the number 3 IDP ranker. It's a close race. Ryan Noonan, number 1, David Hellman, number 2. And I'm number 3 with many, many weeks to go. So hang in there with me. I like to just show that before every podcast, Johnny. But anyway, how you doing, my friend? What you been up to?
I'm blessed, man. It's good to see you at the Expo this off season. And, I've been following your work and following your tweets. You do some great work with a great team. And I'm trying to get like you, man. We've both been in this game for around the same time. This is coming to be my first full year as an analyst. I'm part of the IDP Plus team. I'm blessed to be on it and blessed to have coworkers in the fantasy community like yourself.
It's always good to have people around you to help promote your work and show you the love. I tell you what. So Johnny, over here at the Six Pack, we kind of go and discuss, just the observations we've seen this week, not just our rankings, not just our analytics, but, just some of the stuff we see on tape, some of the stuff we see on film. I'm kind of fascinated to talk to you because one thing I don't partake in, I'm not necessarily, I guess you consider a bettor. So what are some of the strategies you look for? What are some of the tricks you can tell the audience at home? Or better yet, what are some of the things that pop when you look for studs?
Well, let me start with this. So as Steve had mentioned, I do an IDP Plus betting show. When I talk betting, it's specifically defensive tackle player, IDP individual defensive players and tackle props. So Axton is my co-host. He's, I believe, at Axman, and he might have something after that. But Axton is my co-host with that. We have our own kind of take on it. What I'll do is I'll look at the lines that Vegas sets out. They're not on there quite yet. Usually they'll start. We're recording this on a Tuesday. Usually they'll be there on Wednesday. And I'll just kind of check matchups. Last week I'll use the name. One of my hits was Cody Barton. Cody Barton assumed that full-time role, played 100% of snaps in week 4. And I took him. I suggested people to take him as well over 2.5 assisted tackles. So this stuff gets nitty and gritty. You're looking at volume, how many percent snaps you think a player will play, what his line is for Vegas, and if maybe past performances. Week 1, I had EJ Speed. The reason I took him, I hit a parlay. It was a 5-leg parlay, $7 to win 150. And EJ Speed, his over-under was 7.5 combined tackles. Well, I looked the last time he had played the Houston Texans. That was their opponent week 1. Well, they played in the last game of the season. EJ Speed in that game had 13 tackles. So that's a pretty good predictor to me. Like, in these kind of team flows, their cadences, that it's going to be a tackle-heavy game. So, there's a bunch of factors, and Axton brings his own spin on it. He'll talk about if we're looking at somebody who's playing the Jets, linebacker who's playing the Jets this week. What did the previous linebackers do the last couple weeks against the Jets? So there's a lot of margins we use to try to predict these. I went actually 2 for 5 this past week with my tackle props. Wasn't the hottest, but in week 3 I went 4 for 4. So. Started the season off pretty good and try to stay safe with it. I'm not really somebody who looks for like the plus odds. I do sprinkle some of those in here and there, but I'm trying to be safe with my investment. I really don't bet for a lot of money, and you don't deplete the bank account because you want to save some for the next week. So I'm trying to make good, positive, solid bets that are likely to happen.
That's what I was going to ask you when you're betting, especially doing parlays. Do you keep them all close to the chest, or do you take your shots? Like, what's your strategy when you're betting?
So I'll throw, people will ask me like, hey, with your bets, are you over 50%? Do you win more than you lose? The answer is absolutely not. I'll probably throw about 10 bets out there. I'm hoping, one or two hit. And then, say if all my bets were $5 and I hit one for 150, I maybe be in the green 50, $100 by the end of the week. So for me, what my niche is I give a lot of props to those people that do like touchdown props. I think that's tough to gauge. For me, it's easier. My familiarity, my 10 years of experience in IDP. Right. Is to kind of use the tackle props to, you get some good odds. Last week I had Von Bell over 2.5 assisted tackles. It was plus 140. And to me, I'm not looking like some people will say, oh, all plus odds in this part, like all minus odds. Like to me, if the value is good and I think it's going to happen, hey, if it's plus odds, even more, I'll throw it in, so.
When you're like me in a way, you look at analytics, you look at what you see on film, you try to relate it to your bets. You mentioned a couple studs already, and I kind of want to kick this off, Johnny. I write the Every Down article. For those on Spotify, welcome in. For those on iHeartRadio, welcome in. Those people on Apple, everyone on YouTube can see our screen. I literally am talking to Johnny FreakIn Fantasy. I pulled up a Every Down linebacker article that I write each week for the RPO network, which kind of coincides with what Johnny just said. I just wanted to share something with you guys. When you look at this article and you scroll down, not only am I talking about each player every week, I'm also putting the snap count, the tackles, and the points, right? You know what's interesting about EJ Speed and also EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin? They lead the league 1 and 2 in snaps. They have the most snaps out of every single player in the NFL, and they're on the same team. So you're getting your volume out of those guys when you see them. So I had both of them as studs. It's dealer's choice. I mean, you can argue EJ Speed. He's probably the cheaper of the two, probably the more athletic of the two. But you can't go wrong if you're mentioning studs and you're talking about those two guys.
Yeah, that's for sure, man.
I wanted to add another thing just to piggyback off of you with Cody Barton. Last week, kudos to you too, Johnny, because Cody Barton was people weren't sure who the LB1 was going to be earlier in the week. They weren't sure. They were calling their shots. Zach Cunningham's name even came up. Justin, I forget his name, Stenard came up. No one was really sure. Cody Barton was the absolute truth. 100% snaps, 10 tackles last week. The Broncos use a lot of single LB coverages. About 34% of their defensive snaps come from one linebacker sets. So you really want the number one linebacker here. So Cody Barton is the absolute truth. You're going to see his usage stay the same throughout the season. So to me, Barton is definitely a player that I'm interested in. If you can get him off waivers, cool. I don't know. It's a weird stat, Johnny, and I'll ask you as well. He's owned in 7% of leagues. I don't know what 7% of leagues those are because, like, every single one of my leagues I went through every single one of my leagues, and he was already taken. So I don't know where Sleeper gets their stats from. But if he's out there, take him. But he's definitely a stud of mine. Did you have any other studs that you were thinking about?
Well, before I say some other studs, I just wanted to mention even on Yahoo, he's lower. He's 2% owned, and Yahoo is
playing in these leagues.
Not everyone's 100% IDP, so maybe that's the reason why. But still, 2%. I mean, I feel like there's some guys that we'll talk about, the studs that we have, and really low markers here. Like next one, I'll give you not too much higher up, 5%. Blake Cashman's an absolute stud, man. 11 tackles last week, 6 solos, 5 assists. And a tackle for loss for good measure. This is a guy who played 100% snaps. Granted, I know Ivan Pace was not available in that game, but still somebody who's a reliable tackle machine. 34 tackles his first 4 games. Like, to me, we were stuck in the mud a little bit with this. Like, what's it going to be with Pace? What's it going to be with Cashman? Yep. Well, here we are in week 5. Pace is probably going to have to earn it back, coming back from injury. And you got Blake Cashman playing this well. So to me, 5%, this guy's a top 15, top 20 linebacker, weekly. So, you have outliers like that. I mean, another guy, low percent, 5% again, Daiyan Henley. Daiyan Henley, I remember you talking about him specifically last year, Steve, saying he's going to do big things. He's done tremendous the first 4 weeks. 35 tackles, tackle machine. The snaps are there. Played 95% this week. I know Junior Colson was out, but I think this is his linebacking backfield to own. I think he's the one to own there, and only 5% of leagues. And the thing is, that number is probably going to go down. So, I like to look at things. I know you do too, from a deeper perspective. Anybody can go look out and find Dorian Williams. He's a great pickup, sure, but most people know him. Guys like this, Daiyan Henley, when you're owned at 5%, yeah, to me, this is what's intriguing. I want to find that next guy. I want to help my viewers and listeners find that next guy. Henley's going to drop. He has bye week this week, so he's another stash, as well as a stud. To me, this is somebody who's going to be dropped for the bye week. People aren't going to be able to use him. Hey, don't even pick him up right now. Use that spot for somebody that you might have injury. You might have a bye week concern on offense or defense. Use that spot accordingly. Then next week, right after waivers clear, 3 a.m, wake up and get Daiyan Henley because he's a great week 6 play.
Is that how you roll too? Because I do the same thing. I get in the middle of the night. I do my waivers.
That's what winners do.
I love it. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So what Johnny was referring to with Henley, I was on him last year because in the preseason all the way last year, 2023, he was putting up great PFF numbers. I get a lot of my stats from PFF, which I guess we'll talk about a little bit later. But those are like true actual data. That's their work, their ability. So yeah, I seen the potential in Henley last year. Didn't pan out, of course. Right now there's a musical chair rotation. It looks like Henley's the safer of the two.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to throw it back over to when we talk about defensive linemen, there's a couple guys here that I'm interested in. Well, I'll do the obvious one first, and I'll do the not so obvious one next. Kyle Van Noy, he's only owned in 7% of leagues. He had an impressive 6 sacks in the last 3 games. Van Noy will likely be, a top waiver claim in a lot of leagues. The problem is I'm not necessarily buying people, so your context is going to matter. He's got a snap count of 37%, 41%, 50%, 46% of snaps. You want a baseline of about 60%. That's that sweet spot when it comes to DLs. He's not getting a lot of usage. He's 33 years old. The reason I'm putting this out there is because I know he's going to be considered a stud. He's going to be a waiver claim this week. However, be mindful with Van Noy. Maybe play him because all he's getting you right now is the sacks. Maybe in those big 3 scoring, big play, those impact scoring leagues, maybe those are the leagues I would be interested in him in. So and this may be a betting one, so I'm going to pick your brain, Johnny. I got another DL here, okay? The guy's name is Jonathon Cooper. I just tweeted this a little bit earlier, okay?
I have written down too.
Oh, did you? Okay, Jonathon Cooper, we'll share him on this. He was week 1, he led the league in a pass rush win rate. He was the top guy, okay? He's getting 70% of snaps or greater, which I told you that's the sweet spot. 2 of the last 4 weeks, he had 80%, okay? I was reading, if you guys are interested at home, Joe Bond has an IDP by position tracker, which you can kind of base it based on your scoring format. John, leave it to a offensive guy to figure out this thing in IDP. You can literally pull it up. It's a free app on our site. You can pull it up based on your scoring, whatever. You can see the matchups. And Jonathon Cooper has a really sweet matchup this week. He's going up against, Gardner Minshew, who's already given up 13 sacks in the last 4 games. So I'm expecting this guy to eat. Again, I don't make bets often, but if I did this week, I may go that way. Am I crazy? Talk me off the bridge here, John.
No, I mean, this is the right time, right place for Jonathon Cooper. I had him written down as well. Another guy who's a deep guy out here, only 1% of Yahoo leagues. And you know what? Coming into the season, this was a guy, I'm much more thorough, much more knowledgeable, much more experienced when looking at linebackers and defensive backs. So when it came to defensive linemen, I wanted to kind of play it safe. A guy who we talk about getting about 50 or more tackles that can still get you 8 to 10 sacks. And that's the type of player that Jonathon Cooper is. You don't have to bank on the sack. And that's why I love him. That's why I'm instilling confidence, even though 2 box score kind of letdowns the last couple weeks. the greasy wheel is going to get squeaked. You saw that, like you mentioned, that 2-sack performance week 1. That's who he is. This is probably their strongest, quarterback attacker. And so to me, Jonathon Cooper is a safe blend of tackles. He's already had 17 in the first 4 weeks. He's upwards of 4 a week, combined tackles, that is. And it's actually a good split, 8 and 9, 8 solos, 9 assists. So not completely like a, assist machine. He is a nice blend there. But again, going back to it, you got to have, to me, in my book, I'm not going to chase like the Bryce Huffs and hope for sacks. And to me, that's not how I'm going to play it. I'm unfamiliar. I'm not the guy. Again, I talk about tackle props. I don't talk about sacks. I'm not really interested in that. It's not really my niche. So for me, I stay true to the position and just get a nice blend. And Jonathon Cooper offers that really nice tackle floor when it's all said and done, and a nice sack ceiling too.
And, again, I don't know if I'm in uncharted territory here, or this risky business to people, but for me, Jonathon Cooper is the safer of all the defensive linemen that the Broncos have. And he's probably the cheaper in ADP. Like, I stay away from there's an old expression on offense. If you have a quarterback conspiracy, you have 3 or 4 guys, you don't have a quarterback. Same thing's true on defense. If you got 4 or 5 maybes, you have 4 or 5 what ifs. Give me the solid guy. Give me the one in the hand is better than 2 in the bush. Give me the solid guy that I know is going to be out there hustling, getting plays, making hurries. And he showed it week 1. So I think that's like I said, if I was a betting man, that may be a solid pick this week. Getting
Great
Jonathon
pick.
Cooper. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Do you have any linebackers or DLs? Because I got some dart throws for DB. I was just seeing if you have any of that category.
For DL, I'll add one to it. You see this Steelers terrible towel behind me, so I'm going to go with my boy Cam Heyward, owned in 7% of leagues. This is a guy who snaps weren't there. You talked about that sweet spot, about 70%. He finally hit that marker this week. This week and last week, he actually had sacks in both of the games. He had 5 assists and 2 sacks over those last 2 games too. So for me, this is a guy who's a veteran. You know what you're going to get. Helps in the run game. Can get at the quarterback. Get it while it's good. So let's see if he can go 3 for 3. Get another sack this week. They have a good matchup for him versus Dallas. Maybe he can get a Dak Prescott. So maybe that's an intriguing one for half a sack there. But just another model of consistency at the position, especially if you got to start a defensive tackle, let alone a defensive lineman. I mean, with bye weeks going on this week, we'll just say defensive linemen specifically. Bye weeks are hitting this week finally. So I think this could be a good week to pencil him in as a top 15 defensive lineman.
And those playing in MFL leagues, you heard it, Cameron Heyward, you can put him as a DT, slot him in there like that and set and forget it. And, a lot of times he'll play that 3-5 technique. It's kind of a cheat code. He's a little bit outside of the traditional nose guard. So, yeah, you got yourself a good player if you can get him there. I hope you're right, John, because I usually target him in a lot of places when I'm playing MFL or DT required leagues,
He'll have his games. People look at him because he's older. He has some health injuries right now. Like I said, get it while it getting's good.
So for defensive back, I usually don't like to talk these guys because it's all a dart throw. I actually got 3 for this show, believe it or not. I have 3 guys I've been thinking about, and it's just the way I play. I put all my investment, all my money on the LBs, the DLs. I'm looking at guys that are probably on your waivers, or if they're not, they're like middling later on. I'm looking at DB3s with that upside to be, a DB2, possibly a DB1 in your league. I'm going to start with Tony Adams of the Jets. Nothing special here. He's owned in 5% of leagues, right? But if you look at the data, he has 2 10-tackle games in the last 3 games. So if you really want to think about that, with Sauce Gardner on the one side, DJ Reed on the other, and that great defensive line, he may be somebody being targeted. So consider Tony Adams if you're punting deep, and consider Jabrill Peppers. I don't know if you know this, Johnny, but last week, well, actually, I don't know if you know this. The week before, Kyle Duggar of the Patriots, he wore the green dot for that linebacker core. And then, once Bentley went down, he was the green dot. Well, Duggar got hurt last week. Jabrill Peppers came in and wore the green dot. So if Duggar's hurt, you go pick up Peppers, and you can probably get him everywhere for free.
And I think he had 16 points in the league I was in. I saw that. Peppers, what do you have, 8 tackles, something like that?
Yeah, and we're hoping for we're hoping for steady production. But these guys, it's so darn volatile. It's a dart throw week to week. I can't say from week to week that this guy's going to have 8 tackles or this guy's going to have 4. But with Peppers, at least, he has that high upside, and he's a green dot. If he's the green dot, he's going to field all 3 downs. But just looking at Peppers' numbers, to answer your question, he had 7 tackles last week in an INT, and that's on 100% snap count. So if he gets similar volume, guess where the green dot Duggar's out? That's a cheap one for you. I'll throw another one at you. This is a hopeful. Cole Bishop. Cole Bishop owned 30% of leagues. He filled in for Rapp last week, right? Taylor Rapp when he got hurt. He actually played 51% of his snaps in the box. So what does that mean for us? That's another linebacker. Whenever you get an opportunity to put a safety who's going to be playing a linebacker role, you're going to win. For those not familiar with Cole Bishop, I don't know why you wouldn't be, because we did our rookie profiles in the offseason. I was hot on him. Cole Bishop was a second-team All-American. He was a Jim Thorpe Award finalist. He was a 3-time All-Pac. He's a big deal, rookie circles, and he may be getting his shine. Again, all of these guys here that I've talked about, it's all what ifs. Check the roster, check the injury report, see if they're out there. I'm going to save my last one, my best one for last here, because this guy here has the job. This guy here plays for the Raiders. He's owned in 0% of leagues. Marcus Epps got hurt. He's gone for the season. So if you need a free safety, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right, his name is Isaiah Pola-Mao, Pola-Mao, okay? There's not a lot that you guys would probably know about him. He's like a hybrid. He's a hybrid linebacker safety type. He plays the same kind of role as Marcus Epps did. He was mostly a special teamer, bounced around a little bit, but he's been on this team since 2022. So he knows the coaching staff. He knows how they play. He's a blitzer and a pass coverage guy. You can see this game that they just played, he actually generated a sack. So given the fact that Epps is out, given the fact that he's a hybrid, given the fact that he's a blitzer, 6'4", 205, and he's just 25 years old. Epps is 29 years old, and he's running out of time on an expiring contract. So I believe the tweet I wrote was something along the lines of, if you're in a salary cap league, it might be now to get off Epps and to bring in Pola-Mao. Last but not least, his future looks great to me. He's got a sweet matchup, week 5 versus the Denver Broncos. So those are my studs, are not interesting characters. And like I said, you see the way I kind of evaluated the studs this week, Johnny, was kind of like the next man up. Volume is king in IDP, and I see all of those guys with the path.
I'll try to build on that. I have some deep and some not so deep. So okay. I'll try to build off that momentum you got going. I'll go with my my deepest shot first, and to me that's Deshon Elliot. Again, another Steeler. Deshon Elliott's a guy who I really liked for different teams, for the Ravens, for the Lions. He had some nice years. Never quite eclipsed that 100 tackle marker in a season, but right now he's on pace to do it. He actually is third on total tackles for the Steelers team right now. He is only owned in 3% of Yahoo leagues. This is a guy who had 12 tackles last week versus Indy, 8 solos, 4 assists, forced fumble. I mean, this guy wreaks havoc. He has been for years. I remember last year I thought I picked up a darling week 1 for Miami. He had 12 tackles and then really let me down middle of the season. I hope that doesn't happen again. Snaps look good. He's at 85% right next to Minka. I'd like to see that number increase a little bit more. They bring in KZ for 17% of the snaps, and some things I don't want to see. Doesn't instill a whole bunch of truth that this is going to be him week in and week out. But I mean, if you're in a deep league, you might be 14 or 16 people or more, and you start 2 defensive backs. There's room for Deshon Elliott in those kind of leagues. So for me, that's my deepest throw. Gets a good matchup against Dallas again. Steelers do in week 5. 2 guys who I think should be owned, who maybe one guy has the gas pedal let off him. And that's the first one I'll say is Julian Blackmon. I think the injury / the Nick Cross. I mean, Julian Blackmon, he's only owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues. So that's way crazy. Down. He's somebody I think people have kind of fallen off the train, whether it be injury or Nick Cross's breakout, which I had never seen coming. I did not see that out of Nick Cross. He's had so many shots. and didn't pan out. But so again, ride that wave while the getting's good. But Julian Blackmon, people have forgot about. I mean, this is still a guy who's playing 100% of snaps. He does play a little bit deeper, but to me, that's not a problem. Still had 6 tackles and a half a sack last week versus Pittsburgh. Week 5, he gets Jacksonville. Not a great matchup, kind of middle of the pack. So with Julian Blackmon, like Steve, I've heard you reference this before. I preach it too. Like defensive back is not the position where you're putting all the value in, where you're going to get consistency across the board. It's going to be sloppy. So to me, I mean, Julian Blackmon, if he can get you 5 tackles and that's it, like he did his job. Let the other people on your team win the week. Defensive backs rarely do that. Just play at 8 to 10 points, 5 to 6 tackles, and I'm happy. And on that token too, one more player also owned in 7% of Yahoo leagues, who again, if you're in the deeper 14 or upwards of 14, you start two defensive backs. I think Antonio Johnson. I remember you talking about him, Steve, not too long ago in the preseason. I liked him too. He's a young guy. Like you mentioned, young players at the defensive back position tend to do well. Well, here he is. He's showing out. The first 4 weeks, he's had no less than 5 solo tackles in every game. Fit the bill with that. Also, 5 solos, no assists in week 4. And to me, I mean, Antonio Johnson isn't somebody who I'm saying like you're going to start, over Derwin James or anything crazy. But when we get into deeper leagues, I think that Antonio Johnson, another guy who can get you 10 to 12 points, that's fine. You don't have to pay a lot for. Move on and spend money at the other positions.
Yeah, with Antonio Johnson's funny. That was my last pick in the Kings Classic. We went 36 rounds, and that was against other analysts and stuff. So I took a shot there, and it's a great player. I think highly of Antonio Johnson. He was my 3rd or 4th, I think it was 3rd actually, rookie in his draft class, right behind Brian Branch, Jordan Battle. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So he's finally getting the playing time. And again, we're mentioning all these players because all it is opportunity. Start those. There's so many of them now as teams run 4-2-5s, 3-3-5s. And this is the time of year, week 5, week 6, week 7, injuries happen. Players get rotated in all around. I really enjoy your list.
Thank you.
Moving on to duds, though. Who do you got for duds?
Well, what position are we going to talk?
Oh, whatever you want to. I'm just kind of curious. I just wanted to pick your brain. I don't spend a lot of time on duds because I don't like to talk poorly about people, but there's clearly people in the analytics that are dragging their feet and hurting.
For the betterment of the people, I haven't been, I've been coaching. I just got off. I'm just finished the season. Right. So I really haven't been, 100% full steam watching game film. And maybe it's from the looks of it, you have. So if there is my duds are kind of this week and also the season. So if there's some kind of revelation you can give our viewers and listeners, please do. Mm-hmm. So my first one at the defensive lineman, I have 2 of them. I'll just say them real quick. Josh Hines-Allens. Maybe it's because he changed his name, like the Shaq Leonard effect, but like, where has he been? I don't know if you have some kind of like crystal ball you can look in and tell me about Josh Hines-Allens, but I mean, man, he has not been the player. He's maybe not even going to play this week. He's concussed right now. He has to pass that protocol. Him and I mean, another guy who is highly touted, Quinnen Williams. Like, what is going wrong there in New York? I mean, I don't even like. He has a nice matchup this week versus Minnesota, but if I roster him, it's tough to swallow. I mean, 1 assist the last game. That's it. Like, what is up with these 2 players, man?
So the funny thing is, short answer is no, I don't. I don't have any analytics for you at all. But those are great answers. With Quinnen Williams in his defense, playing that DT spot, you're going to get blitzed. You're going to tackle. I was championing that guy in the offseason. I was championing him. I'm like, look, his metrics are a lot better than people realize. He's just not getting there. Sacks are such a fluky stat. Defensive linemen used to be once upon a time before we had PFF and all these extra analytics and win-loss matchups and edge rushing ability, right? We would kind of guess at the DL. And, now we got a handful of guys that are starts every darn week. You know what I mean? But Quinnen Williams, you drafted a defensive tackle. You just got to play him. I guess the expression would be smoke him if you got him. You got to start him. You drafted him high, you might as well. Josh Allen, dude, isn't that something, though, when they change their name like that? Like, when they change their name, it's like something goes out and grinds me. It's giving me Shaq Leonard vibes right now.
Right.
But, yeah, I had him as, DL 7 or 8 coming off the board. I guess we could We can chalk that up to the defensive rotation. We can chalk that up as a new coach. Ryan Nielsen, he's supposed to be a defensive lineman whisperer because he was the one that groomed Trey Hendrickson. He was the one that groomed Cameron Jordan. Maybe this switch and play. I'm not off of Josh Allen yet. I don't have many shares of Quinnen Williams, just the way I build teams. But I'm not off Josh Allen yet. I still start him when I have him. So, like I said, I don't have a lot there to add. Just, hey, some guys, it takes them a little bit longer to get started up. But, yeah, those are excellent duds.
Go ahead. You want to go next, or I'll roll with linebacker?
No, go ahead. I'm just going to jump. I don't, like I said, I don't really go into, like, a lot of categories, but I just like some observations that you may have found. But, yeah, these are good ones. Go ahead.
All right, moving on to linebacker again, not only this week, but the whole season. Bobby Okereke. I mean, drafted the top 5 linebacker. He has a suffice game for IDP, 5 solos and assists with a tackle for loss sprinkled in week 4. But, I mean, this whole season, 25 combined tackles. He does get a sack and a half, which kind of squeaks the greasy wheel. But at the same time, man, Bobby O has just not been the player. And it's not even like, they've been blown out and he hasn't been. He's played 100%, just like he did last year. I think one of only 2 linebackers last year to play 100%. He's done that and just no production. So I'm actually a bit worried about him. He gets a nice matchup this week, but I'm still not out of the woods in that regard. Patrick Queen, I've been saying this for so many years. Like, when is the Steelers last had a good IDP linebacker? You'd have to go back to Devin Bush. Further than that, Ryan Shazier. Robert Spillane played linebacker for Pittsburgh. He plays linebacker for Vegas now, does a darn good job. Where was that in Pittsburgh? I mean, it's just tough. I kind of had a feeling this was going to happen, just the lack of history here in Pittsburgh. Great team, great organization, but they don't get IDP linebackers any love. I mean, this past week, 2 solos, 5 assists, 7 tackles looks good on paper, but the whole season hasn't. It's been 21 combined tackles with 2 passes defense. Maybe they're using him more in coverage. I haven't really sat down and watched the whole Steelers game. I watched Red Zone, and the Steelers aren't on Red Zone too often. They don't get
right.
So maybe that's his concern, but I am concerned about Patrick Queen. I don't think this is a guy who is a Josh Hines-Allens. Like, I draft him, he's going to be back. I don't think that's the case. Like, if you have other guys, Blake Cashman, Cody Barton, to me, I'm starting them over Patrick Queen at this point. And then the third guy I'll give you is somebody who I was not high on. Still am not. I think he's a good tackle guy. Other than that, he doesn't have much upside, and that's Tremaine Edmonds. A lot of people see this guy as a solid LB2. I just never ever since he left Buffalo next to TJ Edwards, I just don't see it. 2 solo tackles, no assists with 1 tackle for loss. This is a double, back-to-back rough games. I mean, he has blow-up games, and he probably is one of those guys by the end of the season, he will get his 110 tackles. But in between the weeks, it's not going to be pretty, So he does have 1 sack and 1 interception to his name. But again, if you can get guys like Cashman, Barton, McFadden, like even Micah McFadden at this point, I'm saying I'd start over Tremaine Edmonds. Just kind of these guys have name brand. They've been good for a while, but Bobby O, I think, rebounds. Patrick Queen, I'm worried about. And Tremaine Edmonds, I don't think he's the player a lot of people thought he was. And I would not start him. He's my sit this week. Tremaine Edmonds versus Carolina.
You are an excellent analyst, my friend. I love your list, and I have comments for all of it. So I'm going to go here. So with Queen, though, I never draft Queen high, and I think I did this on a podcast a couple weeks ago. I've been in drafts. Like, I do this King of IDP draft every year on Facebook. Shout out to Will Hulse. I know you're out there. You're promoting stuff. Somebody took him in the first round. What are you doing? Like, as an LB1, I don't want Queen. And historically, he showed us that. He's not a great LB1. He's a great sidekick to an LB1, and he puts up numbers and what have you. He's a great sidekick, but he's not an LB1 to me. He's an LB2 that can possibly get you stats. So I was he's a little bit underperformed, but I was kind of anticipating him somewhere in that network. So yeah, he's a dud for what people expected out of him, but he was a dud for what I kind of thought he was going to do too. And in the same regard, Trenton Simpson, that was my other guy. That's the only one you didn't have that I had, Trenton Simpson. But the thing is with Simpson and Queen, both of them historically, I'm not panicking on Simpson. If I can get money, if I can get a trade or a good deal out of it, I will. But historically, when Queen started out with the Ravens, they were pulling him. He was only getting 50% of snaps, just like Trenton Simpson. But the Ravens are running a lot of 3 safety sets until he gets more comfortable and they can kind of plug him in a little bit. But those are 2 players I was already kind of off just because I knew the scheme. I knew the format. I wanted to show you something. So for the audience that can't see my screen, and I don't know if you know this, I'm kind of curious. So just kind of doing this on the fly because it just came to me. For those on Apple, welcome in. For those on Spotify and iHeartRadio, you're just going to have to trust me. The YouTube audience is going to get to see this. But I'm showing Johnny something that I kind of I like to keep little fun facts, stats laying around here. But I don't know if you can see my screen, John. But I kind of Googled a long time ago how scoring systems work. Because I like that, right?
Yeah, I know you like that.
Did you know, a sack occurs when you hit the quarterback. We get it, right? But do you know a sack also occurs, say the quarterback is running out of bounds. When he runs out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage, whichever player is next to him gets the sack.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that or no?
I think I learned that from one of your shows previously.
Okay. I don't know if we did them before, but that is bonkers to me. And to this day, I bring this stuff up, okay? If 2 or more players are involved in a sack, each one would get the half credit point, right? Same thing applies if he's running out of bounds, whoever's closest. Now, let's say that quarterback runs out of bounds, he gets a 1-yard gain. Whichever player is closest gets awarded a tackle.
Okay.
You're probably like, where the hell is Steve rambling to? What's he talking about here? I got a point to this, okay? Sometimes tackles are meaningless like that. That was my example. Okay. A lot of times players a running back makes a play. He goes 7 yards. The last person to touch him makes a tackle. Was that tackle meaningful? No, it wasn't. A lot of times there's plays like that where we get stuck evaluating volume of a player and what they're doing. A lot of times these stats, I guess the word I'm looking for here is erroneous. You know what I mean? A lot of times these players are, based on the total volume is how we measure a player, or based on percentages is how we measure a player. And that's not always good. So a lot of times what I like to do is I like to go over to PFF. PFF has some good metrics. Of course, it's behind the paywall, right? It's that true potential, right? So they have a thing called tackle efficiency, okay? So that's kind of my secret sauce. When I have 2 players and I'm ranking, I'm not sure which is which. I'll look at tackle efficiency. And that's kind of how I rank too, John. I take the tackle efficiency of the player times the volume of snaps I think they're going to get. And that's how I kind of determine who I think is going to do what. But let's talk about tackle efficiency. Say a guy makes 10 tackles, okay? And let's say 10 plays are made on, 10 runs are coming at him, and he makes 9 tackles. He has a 90% tackle efficiency. Fair enough, right? Yep. The formula is not that complicated to figure out, but PFF mastered what a definition of a stop is, tackle efficiency. So those are the metrics I'm more so looking at. I will keep an eye on volume, snap percentage, what have you. And both Edmonds and both Okereke share that in common. They're both 100% guys, but the tackle efficiency, you've heard me say that before. You've heard me use average depth of tackle. I use those things when I'm trying to factor or how a player profiles and how they look. Yeah, true. They might have a 20 tackle game, but the next week they may not be any good. You know what I mean? So I'm constantly looking at how that player fits and what's going on there. And I do that week to week, and definitely I do that every quarter because I want to see what these players are doing. Now, I bring all that up just to say this. Average tackle efficiency, like I'm going to say Roquan Smith. Roquan Smith right now, he is batting – he's at 13% tackle efficiency. So I'm going to say anything over 13, 14, 15 is elite. Those are the kind of players you want on your team. Where do you think Bobby O stands right now as far as tackle efficiency goes?
10%.
8.9% tackle efficiency.
Wow.
Even before like you started talking, I'm like, he's going to go Bobby O. 8.9% tackle efficiency. And the reason I kind of went on that little spiel like that, because I wanted to provide the audience a little substance, a little thought behind it. When we're talking all these numbers, you got to know where the context comes from. 8.9% tackle efficiency. You're not very good at your job when you're doing that, especially week in, week out. So, yeah, maybe I will bump him down a little bit more. You are a dud. Your list was excellent. Now, icing on the cake. You said Tremaine Edmonds. He's always profiled as like a cover guy in the backfield making plays. TJ Edwards is more the tackle guy. What do you think? What do you think Edmonds' tackle efficiency is right now? If you had a guess, I'm being fun. I don't expect you to know these. I'm just doing it just for the sake of conversation. What do you think?
I'm going to go on the other side here and say if he's in coverage, you know what I mean, if it's one-on-one, he'll make that tackle. I'll say 17%.
Dude, Edmonds is horrible this year. He's got to be like one of the worst right now as far as he's at 4%.
Oh man.
Yeah. Isn't that funny though? Like if I just would have said, oh, he's 4%, you wouldn't probably know what the stat meant. But he's literally right now, he's at 4.9% tackle efficiency. That's how bad it's been. So, you know, once you know the stat, you can go down the line like this guy's good, this guy's bad, this guy's not good. You know what I mean? So, you know, but anyway, that's all I wanted. I just wanted to share that. Your list is great. I just wanted to add a little flavor to it. Like those are the things I quickly look at. If a linebacker is not doing good, chances are it's the tackle efficiency or it's injuries or it's a mixture of both. You keep playing. You know who else is not good as far as a tackler goes? He had an okay game this game, but Troy Reeder keeps playing the way he is. He's going to get yanked, and they're going to put somebody else in, like the rookie Omar. You know what I mean? So, I don't really profile defensive backs that much. Do you have anybody that you're really looking at or you were thinking about?
As far as another, you know, two players that have left me sour not only this week but kind of the season. First guy more so than the second, but Josh Metellus, man, owned at 33%. This is a guy we're counting on in IDP. I mean, he's just had one good game. The other three have been kind of washes. Still playing 100% of snaps, Steve. And I mean, you know, last season, the Vikings defensive backs were the only trio of defensive backs in the league to hit 900 more snaps each one of them. It looks like they're going to hit that marker again with Harrison Smith being the third, safety there. So, I mean, to me, the snaps are there. Like, things haven't changed. But Josh Metellus, his production has left a lot to be desired to me.
So a couple things with Metellus, a couple stats jump out to me. Since Ivan Pace has been out, he's been relied on as the other linebacker. Even with what was his name, Grugier Hill there, he's only playing 34% of snaps. Metellus has been like the primary linebacker or like going out in coverage. So they're not using him like they normally do. He's been 44.7% of the time in the box. So that's encouraging. But they're letting him play a lot of that slot role. That's the other 47.4%. I will say this. He's blitzing a lot more, 6% of the time blitzing. Whenever a guy's blitzing, like think of Frankie Louvu, the Commanders right now. Yeah, they're using him in that blitz role. What is that doing? That's taking away from that sweet spot tackle role, which is what we want out of him. So I don't think it's the player. I think it's more so the situation that he is stuck in right now. You know what I mean? So I'm not giving up on the guy. I've profiled him before a bunch of times. You know, they use him as a weapon. Wherever the coach wants him to play, they're going to let him play. But, yeah, I agree with you. He's a dud. And I don't spend a lot of time in defensive backs. Jordan Poyer may be one. I don't know what happened there. I know he's hurt now, but no excuse. You know, I was expecting bigger things out of him with the Dolphins. So if I had one that stuck out to me, that would be the one. But
now his battery made too. I mean, even Javon Holland, I expected bigger results, bigger box scores out of him. Haven't hit it. Justin Reed, another guy this week who let me down. I might start Antonio Johnson, pick up Antonio Johnson over Justin Reed this week. He gets another rough matchup with New Orleans.
There you go. I'm gonna move. I'll lead this category because you've been kind of carrying the load here, but John, I appreciate you. We're gonna start with observations, okay? I'm gonna take it to the 49ers. Going back, talking about the every down linebacker, okay? And this is more of just a lecture, pretty much. When we look at stats, we look at numbers, we look at box scores, but look at the overall picture. Look what's going on, okay? So this week, Fred Warner got hurt. Okay, he went down. And we already know Greenlaw got hurt, right? Mm-hmm. So the early chatter on this is, Oh, look at Devondre Campbell. He's 100%. Okay, that's what the numbers tell you. But look at the other guy. The guy I want to focus on here, his name is Demetrius Flannigan-Fowlers, Foles, okay? He only got 71% snap usage. So if you're just looking at box scores, you're like, okay, well, Campbell's the 1, he's the 2. That's not correct at all. Let your friends fail at this, okay? So as an observation, take the whole thing into account. We're going to talk about Demetrius Flannigan-Fowlers, okay? When Warner got hurt, this guy became a 3-down player. He played every single snap but one when Warner went down. He even wore the green dot. So on paper, it looks like Campbell, but in reality, it's this guy. If Warner's out, which you know he is, that's going to be a number 1 play right there. Let the foolish managers run over and pick up Campbell or somebody else. But it's Flannigan-Fowlers, provided that Warner is out and stays hurt. That's the target. That's my target to own in the 49ers backfield. And then I got one more here as far as the same vein. We know Lavonte David. And be careful with Lavonte David because his tackle efficiency has been a little bit down this year. But he's getting 100% snaps. The LB2 battle has been between Savoisier Dennis and KJ Britt. Well, guess what? Dennis went down. When Dennis went down, Britt became an every down play, well, almost 89.5% snap share. And he's had back-to-back weeks of 6 tackle plus. So expect Britt to be streamable this week, Fowlers to be streamable this week. There are a ton of guys that are streamable this week. I'm not going to go into all of them because I want you guys to look at our articles. The Fantasy Six Pack, the waiver article, in the RPO network. I have the every down linebacker. I'm actually running a promo code over there, John. The promo code is, if you guys type in Hunter, you get 10% off all season on the RPO network. You get award-winning rankings. You get off the whole year. You get advice. You get betting advice. You get rookie scouting, dynasty scouting, and of course, my article as well. So if you use promo code Hunter, you get additional $10 off full access. But yeah, that's my observation. Don't take stats as your be all end all. Look at the whole thing. Take it all in first, because sometimes you will get fooled or you will get lapped. Any thoughts there, John?
No, I like it. I like the KJ Britt, good information on the Dennis injury. And I thought KJ Britt was going to be the guy. So hopefully this is the chance he needs to make good on that. Streamable linebacker. Your boy Knight, who's that from? Tyrese Knight. He had a nice game. Jerome Baker being out, maybe another streamer. Balin Spector. Dorian Williams is a great get if you can get him. So there's, I agree with your logic. There's a lot of streamers this week, and bye weeks are, coming up now, and big injuries, whether it be Poyer, Alex Singleton. So a lot of these guys down, Fred Warner now. So this is where the rubber hits the road, where the research, really matters. And, rock with us, continue to use all those nice tools that Steve had talked about in this podcast.
We got a lot of we've talked a lot of waivers this episode, but this final category we're going to talk about the waivers and dynasty strategies. I'm going to kind of put it all together. There's some guys that I'm looking more as a dynasty piece as well. As far as the strategy goes, John, I'm just thinking out loud. It's week 4, about to be week 5. These bye weeks are coming up, aren't they? Mm-hmm. A nice strategy I like to do is like, okay, if I see 2 players that are like similar tier, especially in a redraft, I'll do this. I'm like, hey, look, I'll trade you this guy for that guy because I know you like this guy. My guy hasn't had a bye week yet. Your guy has had his bye week. So what does that mean? I get an extra 10 games. You get an extra 9 games. I get an extra game with extra points. And I can load to my team. Just a little strategy you can do to move yourself forward. What is the old expression? A rolling stone gathers no mouse. But little strategies like that I like to do. Dynasty, I don't care as much. I'm trying to get the best available players I can, especially for upcoming. So I got a couple stashes that you can probably pull off waivers. We're going back to Carolina here with the Panthers, okay? Shaq Thompson, sorry. He's done for the season. And Jose Jewell, he's going to miss at least 1 game. So that gives us a chance to look at one of our top rookie prospects. We're going to see Trevin Wallace in a full-time role, Okay. Now, here's where the stats are going to lie to you again. He only got 37% snaps, but he became 100% every down linebacker as soon as that injury happened. So he is clearly the next man up. He's going to be your LB1 next week, if not the LB2 moving forward. For those that aren't familiar with Trevin Wallace and are just tuned into the show, we've talked this guy before, Johnny. He's a standout at the combine. He had an impressive 4.51. It was the fourth fastest time at the position. He also broke a 44-year-old state championship record for the long jump. He jumped 23 feet, all while weighing 225 pounds. So if you can apply all them extra attributes onto the field, I'm expecting a nice stat line moving forward. I'm expecting this athletic freak to finally get his chance to shine. So I'm keeping an eye on Trevin Wallace. I'm picking him up. At the very least, he's your LB2. He's a dynasty stash for you. And we didn't mention as a stud earlier in the show because it was too obvious. Troy Anderson broke out this week. He led the league with 17 tackles. Not to mention a touchdown went for an interception. It didn't go unnoticed. It's just, everybody knows who Troy Anderson is at this point. Well, a lot of people don't know is he hurt his knee. He's probably going to be injured this week. If he is, next man up is rookie JD Bertrand. He's the clear LB3 in that pecking order. He only got 10% of snaps last week, but just like the other guy down below, he's an athlete. He showed himself at the combine. A lot of us weren't sure how that linebacker room was going to go. A lot of us were betting on Nate Landman. How'd that work out? A lot of us were betting on Caden Ellis. This is where the stats fool us again. Caden Ellis is your 100% every down linebacker, right? But guess what they do with him, Johnny? They rush him. He rushes the passer, and he does it pretty well. He usually mixes more than half of his snaps as a pass rusher. When you do that, that greatly alters your ability to make tackles or be in the ideal, sweet spot in the box to make those ideal tackle situations. So there's regression going on from Ellis, whoever that sweet spot linebacker is. And I'm guessing it's Anderson if healthy, or Bernard if injured. That's going to be your go-to guy. That's going to be the one you want to look for. That's going to be the one to own. So those are my two dynasty pickups if I had a chance. You got to do it this week, guys, because after this week, people are going to know who these players are. If you don't do it now, you're going to be behind the power curve.
And I like your boy Pola-Mao. If he's out there, he's young enough, like you said. Tyler Nubin, another guy, one of that same draft class as these two guys you had mentioned. So he's finally getting 100% snaps and, showed out this week. So if those guys are still out there, definitely pick them up.
Yeah, and I mentioned most of these guys in my waiver article this week over at the Fantasy Six Pack. Check it out. If you guys aren't familiar with the Fantasy Six Pack, I don't know why you wouldn't be. You're on a Fantasy Six Pack show, but that's my waiver article right there. We have award-winning rankings over here too. I was the number 4 ranker last year. I'm number 3 this year. Joe Bond was the number 3 offensive ranker. They have baseball. They have football. They have hockey. They have all different formats of award-winning rankings. Check them out. Check out Fantasy Six Pack, what we do over here. And while I'm over here promoting stuff, I also want to give a shout out to the IDP Center. The IDP Center, me and Johnny were talking about this offline. It's an interactive site. It started this year. This is its first year. We've already have a growing community. There's thousands of people in this community. We have over 350 expert managers that give you advice. They have their own Discord. They have their own chat. Not only do they have articles, I'll tell you where the most important thing, in my opinion, is they have a rookie calculator, okay, for trading for IDP. Now, you don't see IDP calculators too much, and the reason you don't see them is it's a little bit ridiculous. You'll be in one league, and it'll say, oh, TJ Watt is equivalent to Justin Jefferson. You'll be in another one, and it'll say Devin Singletary is equivalent to TJ Watt. Like, which is it? Context matters. So this is the only, I guess this is a virtual state-of-the-art trade calculator. It manages both types of scoring settings. You can check this out. And at the very least, if you're not interested in calculators or trading advice or even reading articles, come on over, check out the IDP Corner, come out, check out some of our we have free leagues, we have money leagues, we have best ball leagues, we have dynasty leagues. I don't have a lot of time nowadays, Johnny. I'm not in a lot of these dynasty leagues, but you'll see me over there in the best balls. Come on over there and talk smack to me. All kinds of formats going on, as well as we have another partner here called Smash Up Sports. Are you familiar with Smash Up Sports, John? They were at the Expo. I don't know if you ever seen these guys.
I did. I did listen to their promotion. I did.
Yeah. They have like these little Pokemon cards. That's what makes it funny to me. I was reading these the other day. I'm like, how do you even play this? I'm like, oh, I get it. If my defense outscores you, I get twice the points this week. Or, just little nuances. My quarterback throws 3 touchdowns, I get 50 extra points. But it's kind of a fun way, kind of a cool way to look at an old sport, So never stop growing, never stop learning. There's always an opportunity to expand or learn something new. But those are our 2 sponsorships. John, I got one more question for you. What are you working on, and where can the audience find you?
I appreciate it. Yeah, so what I'm working on right now is like I mentioned before, I do 2 weekly shows. One is IDP plus trends. The other is IDP plus bets. So just in general, if you're not subscribed or you're not familiar, go to IDP plus and hit enter on YouTube, and you'll see our channel that has over 30 analysts doing videos, weekly videos, all kinds of information from fantasy, dynasty, IDP offense, everything in between. So while you're there, if you want to find my betting show, so when you hit IDP in the plus sign and hit enter, you'll see 3 little sub channels. It'll be IDP plus, IDP bets, and IDP shorts. Go to IDP plus bets, and from there you will not only see me and my co-host show when we talk about defensive props, you will also see all the other betting platforms that we do on our show, IDP plus. There's touchdown parlays, sacks, defensive sacks. So if you're not rocking with me getting the tackles and assists, I promise we got something for you, whether it be sacks or offensive categories. So everything under the moon. Come check us out. I usually record both of these shows Friday nights with my co-host, and then we'll drop them usually Saturday morning. So to me, there's unfortunately no prop bets right now for games. They haven't put them in. Usually they'll be there like Wednesday morning. So tomorrow they should be in there. I'll start calculating my props and, record Friday and send them out for Saturday. So, check me out if you haven't already.
Heck yeah. And Johnny, once again, thank you for coming on. You've been amazing. Would you come back on?
No doubt, man. We'll be on here again soon. You can
Excellent.
count on that.
Excellent. And I'm looking forward to paying attention to IDP bets and seeing what you guys are up to, winning some of those bets. Please check out Johnny FreakIn with a capital I, Johnny FreakIn F1 Fantasy. He's over there on Twitter. We're usually up at night answering questions, what have you. Check him out, doing amazing work in this community. I appreciate you so much coming on. I tell the audience this all the time. It's almost cliche at this point. Hey, you guys keep watching. We'll keep making these videos, and check out Johnny's videos as well. Any closing thoughts, John?
Man, blessed to be on here today, and crazy first quarter of the season. Best of luck in week 5 and the rest of the way.
Yeah, most of it's just hanging in there, and never put it down, because IDP, you can be the hottest thing in the biz, and then put it down for 2-3 weeks, and now all of a sudden you're behind. You don't know who these players are. Injury stuff happens, especially on IDP. So just keep working on it. Work on your teams. No one's out of it yet. It's only it's about to be week 5. So anyway. You guys have a good week and talk hard.